Hunters are the best conservationists in the world. We just don't bark, at the window and tell everybody give me money. We actually participate. We bring animals on the property that are extinct, basically in their native lands. And then we have an opportunity to give back. And that's where the combat veterans come into play. That's where the faith-based Christian groups come in. There's nothing better in your life to have a 10-year-old young boy come in and watch him give his life to Christ right in front of you. So the outdoors does a lot of things to a lot of people, and there's peace in the outdoors. You watch the combat veterans, they just come here and it's like the weight gets lifted off and there's no expectations, and the trauma starts to leave. And maybe it's a short period of time, but maybe that's enough time to help them heal.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jazz for Peace podcast, where the final solution is love. And today, boy, do we have some love from the South, folks. We've got a Texan who is down by law. Victor Bredding is a construction executive, ranch owner, TV personality, international sportsman, and author of The Man I Would Become. He's an 8th generation Texan and a descendant of the original old 300 families who settled Texas under Stephen F. Austin. Raised without a father, Victor was shaped by a mother who worked 60-hour weeks and never allowed her children to feel the full weight of what they lacked. Her grit became his inheritance. He carried that grit from football fields of Texas to the concrete floors of nuclear power plants, from the boardrooms of construction firms to the hunting grounds of 6 continents, building a life with his hands, his faith, and his refusal to quit. Victor holds multiple world hunting records across 6 continents, as we mentioned. Today, his North Texas ranch opens its gates to wounded veterans, terminally ill children, and young men who need to meet God in the silence of the land. The Man That I Would Become is not a book about success, but rather it is a book about becoming. It is about the failures that forge character, the faith that holds when everything else breaks, and the quiet dignity of a man who stopped trying to write his own story and surrendered to the one who already had the roadmap. This is Victor's story and an invitation to visit the place where it all comes together, and that is Bredding Texan Ranch, where faith, perseverance, the outdoors, and purpose to continue to shape lives every day becomes your reality. And I just want to welcome Victor for numerous reasons. One, which I was telling him offline, is that this legacy series, the idea is to kind of help people who are younger see the value in giving back, the value of helping others. And Jazz for Peace is trying to help you now with our 25th anniversary by our Easy Ways link. It's called jazzforpeace.org/easyways.pdf. It's a way for our species to fund world peace at 1% instead of 0%. By 6 options, 5 of them are free. So nobody can possibly not participate if you have the will. So Jazz for Peace is providing the way for those who have the will. And that's exactly why we are so delighted to have you, Victor, providing the way to give back with your ranch. Welcome to the Jazz for Peace podcast.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate being here.
I guess we have to start with those generations before you. You go back a long way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I didn't really kind of figure this out until probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was my cousin that said, "Hey, I've got my dad enrolled in the Sons of the Republic of Texas." And I said, well, what is that? She said, well, that's basically the first 300 settlers that the Stephen F. Austin gave the grants to back in Texas, as it was a republic before it was a state. And I said, well, I'm kind of interested. So it was nice to know you're a piece of history, within the state.
8 generations was what? I'm thinking the 1800s, right?
1842. You had to be living here in 1842, and part of it had to be from the land grants from Stephen F. Austin.
Wow. So you guys were through the Civil War. Did anyone ever talk to you about those times, or do you have any information about your family during that
Uh,
era?
There is one that I've been researching on that was actually in the Civil War. The rest of them wasn't, but I did do some research and found that I do have one of my past relatives that was in the Civil War.
So was hunting a part of these previous generations? It's a big part of your life.
It was. I was
Mhm.
actually on my first hunt when I was 13 years old with my uncle.
Wow.
He took me, so that heritage has been kind of been passed down from my grandfather, to him. And I lost my dad when I was younger, so my uncle kind of was, my mentor during this point in time.
And I'm just feeling here, you kind of got the feeling of the value of community related to hunting with your uncle, family, camaraderie, love, all of these kinds of things. I have read about you. One of the things that really caught my eye was it's not the actual shot that matters, it's what leads up to that. And after that, it's the things that surround it. And that really resonated with me. I'm guessing that here you were as a kid, you got these values, you got this feeling, this something that you wanted to have through life, but then you started a serious career in construction.
Yeah, so the funny story on that one is I lost my scholarship at the University of Texas because I hurt my neck. So I came back and sat on my mom's couch for, about 2 weeks, and I'm looking kind of over my shoulder, and here comes my suitcase down the aisle. Oh, okay. Well, then she says, "Hey, can I have your keys?" Okay, well, maybe mom needs gas, because she was a single mom raising my brother and little sister, right? So next thing I know, she calls me outside and she goes, "Hey, I need to see you outside." Okay. So I walk outside. She hands me my keys, gives me 20 bucks, said, "Tell me where you land." So I landed at a nuclear power plant. I was out there, and I remember the hiring manager came out and said, "Son, you can't stay here." And I said, "Sir," I said, I am down to bread, water, and cheese. I have no gas, and the only way you're going to get rid of me is to hire me. So therefore, on Monday, he hired me, and that's what started my construction career.
It's an incredible story. And I also heard that too, which caught me because I was like, wow, that is a tough love scenario. But you found a way to make the most of a challenging situation for a young kid, but you made the most of it.
Yes, sir. And, I give all the credit, to my mom. She grounded me in faith at an early age. She showed me what grit and perseverance meant in her life. She never let us understand that there was anything that we didn't have because she worked, 60, 70 hours to provide for us. So that grit and that determination, came from her. She instilled that in me.
Wow, bless her heart. So basically, from there, I did hear about the football thing, and I wasn't quite sure if you made it into college, but you say the injury was in high school or college?
It was in high school and college.
Okay,
I kind of
and
limped.
college.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kind of limped it through, but the career ending was basically in college when you go to your doctor, and he says, "Hey, if you get a hit like that one more time, you might not walk."
Wow.
I was never going to make it into pros. It was something I loved. It was, something that kept me together all of my life, and it was time to turn it off and to do something different.
Well, this does lead us to, I believe, very close to your construction because here you are now, you're at a nuclear power plant. How do you get from there into construction?
So whenever I got hired, it's kind of funny story. You always hear the water boy story. Well, I was a water boy. I was there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was putting ice in 10-gallon coolers, putting water in, and delivering to 10,000 people on this site. So I started out truly as a water boy, and about 6 weeks later, they made me a foreman, and about a year later, I became a general foreman over about 6 different crews, and then you wake up one day and realize, man, labor's not a trade. Victor, if you're going to do something, you got to change. So my superintendent left. Another one came in. He was over both concrete and the labor pool. And I said, "Hey, I need a little help. Can you help me out?" And he put me on basically as a what they call a prep foreman in the concrete division. Then I moved up into a vibration foreman. Then I moved up into a place finish foreman, and then I left. Got hired on by Baker Concrete when they were building a 65-story building there in Houston. And they hired me at 10 o'clock at night. Next thing I know, at 12 o'clock midnight, I'm on a pour with 12,000 yards for the foundation. And so that's where the career really started taking off.
You sound like that guy because you hear these rags to riches stories in music of a guy who sounded he was an office boy or he was carrying the water or the making the coffee and the next
Yeah.
thing you know he's the artist. he's singing or whatever. I think Rick Astley was one of those guys. This
Yes,
guy who was
sir.
he was one of those guys.
Yep.
So that it was really ground up. So you
Yes,
really
sir.
just right from the bootstraps. Now, how did you get all the way up there? I mean, because you were quite an executive at some point now in this journey. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And my favorite saying is, you lead from the front, not in the back, right? I never was in the military, but that's where they do. They lead from the front, not the back. So being with Baker, they were a small organization back then. They were 16 million. I was the very first employee hired out of the state of Ohio because they came in from Ohio. So they started climbing up the ranks of the construction profession extremely rapidly, and luckily they carried me with them. I showed them some desire, and then I moved to San Antonio and to Austin, and they let me run an area at that point in time, and just kind of keep working yourself up through the ranks, proving yourself. And to me, that's what I did. I had to go prove myself because I've always said at the end of the day, you have to have responsibility and you have to have that trust that goes along with it. Well, I'm going to earn your trust. That is my job, to earn your trust. So that's all I did.
One thing about starting from the ground floor up is that you do earn that value. You're valuable at this level, at that level. And then eventually, I'm just guessing, they say, hey, let's try him at this level. He was valuable here. We could use some value over in this division, and up the ranks you go, right?
Yes, sir. My saying too is always about, and it's in other books too. It's not just necessarily Victor's saying, but put the right person on the bus. You'll figure out where he goes in the seat. You can move him around in the seat, but just you find a good guy, put him on the bus. And luckily, I think they felt like that I was at least one of those people they could invest in and get something back out on the return on their investment.
Now, at some point, push starts to come to shove because you do start to reach some lofty goals in construction. At the same time, maybe that voice is starting to call you back to hunting, or you were hunting all along, but you started to want to grow, make hunting your life again. Almost.
Yes, sir. And, when you raise kids, your priorities a little different, right? You're at soccer, football, basketball, cheerleading, dance, you're all around the place trying to figure out how I'm going to make it to all these events. But when the kids start getting older, they're leaving the nest and they're saying, Dad, talk to you later. So you're trying to figure, okay, what do I want to do now? Well, I've always took my kids out, to whether we were duck hunting or we were dove hunting. I always took them out with me. But then it became this deal like, okay, I'm now ready to reinvest back into myself. So my wife and I started traveling internationally and going into some places that we would never, ever be able to see if it wasn't for the hunt.
Now, your wife goes on these hunts with you. That's one of the first times I've heard that. And I would guess that the fact that she goes on the hunts with you is kind of what makes it a family kind of activity, because that's your vision for the ranch.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love having her there with me. And, she's just not there as my companion. She's there as my huntress as well. She'll hunt certain animals. And, my favorite saying to everybody is, thank goodness, that my wife only picks out certain animals or I couldn't afford to hunt. So she lets me pick out everything around what she wants to do, which allows me to do that. But no, family's everything. My wife is a big advocate about it takes a tribe, to survive. And we are a family. My 90-year-old mother-in-law, lives behind us. My brother and sister-in-law, they come over to help and cook and treat our customers. So it is a family affair.
So when people come to this ranch, they're really coming to a family.
Yes, sir. If you our slogan that we've adapted is where we treat you like family. That didn't come from me or just trying to figure out what this next best hook was. It came from the reviews that we've got. And it is family. We break bread together, we sit and talk, we laugh together, we sit by the fire. That is the whole thing. And you made the one statement about, pulling the trigger, right? Nobody ever came to my ranch and has ever told me, man, that 1 second I pulled the trigger, that was so fun. That was a neat experience. It's what happens before and what happens afterwards. So it's my responsibility to give them that memory that they can have the rest of their life.
We were talking offline, and I was talking to you about how we were quite educated by that musician, Ted Nugent. Right?
Yes, sir.
Because he was an actual hunter. And most people, even in rock and roll, most of his fans didn't, they go to a grocery store. People don't equate hunting per se with the philanthropic work and family first work and the extraordinary giving back that is associated with your ranch. And that's a bridge I'd love for them to understand a little bit better. How would you take Ted's message of hunting, and then bring it to where you have supersized it as something that helps veterans and helps troubled children? I mean, it's just awesome what you're doing.
Well, thank you for letting me do that, because the ranch's mission is not about us. The ranch's mission is about giving back. So, Ted does a lot of great things, which is again about conservation. So I'd kind of like to start about that. Hunters are the best conservationists in the world. We just don't bark, at the window and tell everybody give me money. We actually participate. We bring animals on the property that are extinct, basically in their native lands. And then we have an opportunity to give back. And that's where the combat veterans come into play. That's where the faith-based Christian groups come in. There's nothing better in your life to have a 10-year-old young boy come in and watch him give his life to Christ right in front of you. So the outdoors does a lot of things to a lot of people, and there's peace in the outdoors. You watch the combat veterans, they just come here and it's like the weight gets lifted off, and there's no expectations, and the trauma starts to leave. And maybe it's a short period of time, but maybe that's enough time to help them heal.
Wow, that's incredible. So somewhere along the line, you retired, the ranch started, and it started to attract all of this faith-based energy, giving back energy, helping others energy. How did you get from, let's say, just constructing a ranch? Because I would guess, did you buy the ranch? Was it in place and then you fixed it up? Or did you start it from scratch? And then how did you get from there to all that you are offering now with your services?
So we bought the ranch. It was high fenced, and there was 12 animals. So my sons and myself, because again, being in construction, I love to build. We built everything ourselves. So the lodge we built ourselves, all the sleeping quarters, the arrangements, the barns, you name it, it's all been built. And as we were going down this journey, and I met CTO and I met Hunting with Soldiers, you all of a sudden wake up one day and you go, how did I get here? Just like you said. And you kind of realize that God was putting me on a path. I just had no earthly idea what it was. So then you finally understand what you're supposed to do, and then you start accelerating it. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. The ranch is just the hub of everything we're trying to do to bring people here, which helps us give back more. Because to date, in 3 years, we've given away 64 donated hunts. In fact, Wednesday, tomorrow, I've got 6 Christian children's girls that are coming out for their ram camp. Next week after that, there's 10 Christian boys coming out for their ram camp. So it helps us do those things, which I hope, again, is helping us as a member of society.
And that's a message that we are really hoping to convey with this legacy series, is the fulfillment that comes from this kind of activity. A lot of people don't realize until they get to a certain age, and then all of a sudden they're like, geez, I've got this, I've got that, I've got the house, I've got the picket fence, but I don't feel fulfilled. Well, giving back is what brings those pieces to the puzzle. And you're really doing it here with this ranch. How big is the ranch?
So we've got 2 different ranches. Each one is about a couple of 100 acres each. And then we hunt on 1,600 acres total. There's a bison on another ranch that we hunt off of, and there's some bigger deer we hunt on another ranch. So together we've got like 1,600 acres that we hunt on.
Wow. That's an extraordinary amount of land to plan these journeys. Do you decide what acres you're going to go to take hunters out to, or do you plan these in advance? They choose like where to go. It's 1,600 acres. It's a lot of area, right?
Yeah, and that's back to, again, my client's expectations is my responsibility to meet. So I'm very thorough with having a conversation about them. In other words, one of the gentlemen might say, "Hey, I want to bring my 8-year-old son. And, he really would like to harvest an axis." Well, probably going to be an issue. They don't come out. You got to walk and stalk them. They're going to look at you for 3 seconds. If you can't pull the trigger in 3 seconds, it's not going to happen. So I try to educate them and make sure they understand, because I don't want them walking away with an experience that's not memorable. So yes, sir, we plan everything out. I ask a bunch of questions. I try to make sure that I meet their expectations before they ever arrive.
You really examine each guest before they come, before they arrive, and kind of advise them, guide them in the right direction of what kind of activities would be of their interest, of their capabilities, these kinds of things. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, because everybody would say, "Hey, I just really want to shoot this animal." Well, do you want to climb 10,000 feet and then start hunting? There has to be an expectation, and I'm one of those kind of people, especially in construction. You've got to have realistic expectations of your outcome. It's not a hope. It's not a wish. It's not a think. It has to be a plan. The plan has to be executed. So all of that for construction just kind of dials me right in for the ranch.
It can't help to remind me about a journey that I was in Rwanda, Africa, where they took me to where there are these gorillas who live in the wild,
Mm,
and they wanted me to go out and see them. And they chose the Amahoro group. It's 21 gorillas, and basically they're 7 miles away.
yeah.
And of course, yeah, everybody would want to go do it, but only one other band member came with me on this journey because it was so far away, and you could get bit by things and while
Oh
you're in the
yeah.
jungle walking, little plants will bite you, all kinds of wild stuff. And we had trackers and stuff with us, and people guarding us in case another animal shows up. And so it was an amazing journey. But it sounds to me like these people that visit your ranch are really getting a taste of the wild.
They are, and back to Ted Nugent and a little bit of conversation about hunting, right? Because there's
Mhm.
this mystique about high fence hunting, like, oh, you put a rope around his neck and basically cut him loose, or he's in a 1 acre pen. So I try extremely hard to make sure that that mystique's not here, because you will hunt when you come on my ranch. And there's no guarantee it's today, it's tomorrow, it's the next day. You're going to hunt, for the harvest of your animals. So yes, sir, we want to make sure that that experience is taken care of.
How do you come up with some of these amazing charities that you support through your ranch activities?
So when you ask about, what was the ranch whenever we started out, like I said, high fence and 12 animals. So as we were building, it wasn't the lodge at the time. We were actually just building where we thought we were going to retire at. So then I went into an outdoor show, and that's where I met Gordon Melton with Hunting with Soldiers, and then Casey Allen. So as we started talking, it was actually my daughter. I guess I got to give her credit. My daughter came up with a couple of flyers and said, "Dad," she was so excited. She goes, "Dad, you've got to go talk to these people. You just have to go talk to them." So I went over there, and next thing you know, it's like I'm trying to help them. We're trying to see what their needs are. And the one thing you realize really quick is that those organizations don't exist in the outdoors without somebody participating that owns the land. So a landowner for them is a precious piece of gold. That is what helps them do their job. So it's this cooperation that you get in between us. To every year we sit down and set our goals. Are we going to do 2 hunts? We're going to do 3. We're going to do 10 kids this time. I mean, we've gradually been working ourselves up. Our girls camp, this is our first year for our girls camp. So we're so excited about, because my wife's going to lead it. So I'm excited to watch her, lead the operation.
Your wife is a big player in this whole journey of yours. Is she originally from the state of Georgia, did you say?
All of her dad's family from that side is all up in the Georgia area, and then some of them have kind of migrated over into Mississippi.
Okay, because when I was in the house band at the Blue Note Jazz Club, one of the big perks was getting to see all of these great musicians. And one of them was Ray Charles.
Oh wow.
And so I would go right up close to him and watch him sing songs like Georgia and other songs. And it was just amazing. This little song, I have not played it in decades, but we're going to do it for your wife. What is your wife's name?
Rhonda.
Well, this is going out to Rhonda, and this is the classic by Ray Charles called Georgia on My Mind. I'd also like to give a shout out to, in case any of my relatives from Georgia are also listening, I do have relatives, cousins in Georgia and Atlanta, Georgia. So we'll see. Let me just. Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Georgia, Georgia, the song of you comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through the pine. Other arms reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly, still in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you. Georgia, Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Other arms reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly, still in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you. Georgia, Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Ooh,
Wow,
So,
my wife's got to love that.
oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to
Oh,
hear that.
oh, no. I don't hadn't been 20 years. It's been 2 seconds ago the way you played that.
I tell you,
Oh,
I've been feeling it. I just never had the chance to do it again. So
that was
I'm so
wonderful.
glad you gave me that chance. Yeah.
Oh, that was wonderful. Well, thank
And
you. And I'm going to give you the funny because this is Rhonda's favorite thing because everybody says, "How do you spell your name?" Right? Well, there's no H in it. She says, "I'm not Rohonda. I'm Rhonda."
I think the Beach Boys had a song, right? Help Me
Mhm.
Rhonda.
Help me,
Well, I wonder
Rhonda.
how they
Yep,
spell it. Yeah,
they did. I'm sure it was with an
they
H.
did. Well,
Right.
good. So that leads us up to the present and the future. What is the present for the ranch? And tell us about the future plans you might have coming up and also this new book. Let's talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, future for the ranch is in January this year. I kind of mentioned we'd actually purchased a second ranch, so that's kind of the advancement of more species of animals, more opportunity for people to come visit the ranch. So that's part of the advancement. The book was kind of really wasn't designed to be about the ranch, but I quickly realized that it's a spoke to the hub, right? It's actually trying to get people back to the ranch so that we can continue our giving and our mission. But the book was originally written, excuse me, for my grandkids and then their kids, because I lost my mom about 4 years ago, and example being about the heredity, trying to find out again now that I'm interested in, being that eighth generation Texan. Well, she had this kind of a roadmap for our ancestry, and it's like I can't find it. So it's like, when she's gone, we've lost a lot of things that made us who we were and be able to pass down. So I thought about it one day and I said, I want my grandkids and their kids and whoever wants to care of listening to know who I was, what my journey was, what perseverance means, what not giving up, what pressure means. And so the book kind of came around, and then when the book came out, I've actually had a lot of authors reach out to me and said, this is not about your success story. This is about how you got to where you're at and the mission that you have. And that's where I decided, okay, it's time to start trying to spread the word on really what the mission is. See if I can help men that don't want to talk about issues or problems. We bury them, and hopefully I can make some good in the world other than just exist and live here.
Yeah, and that's where really legacy comes into play, and you brought up such a good point. One of them is with men keeping things in as society kind of coaxes us into doing might not be the best thing for our spirit, our soul, our health. And you brought up an amazing statistic that the most suicides that are being tallied up are coming out of former construction workers. Could you talk a little bit about that and your feelings about that, and maybe how you're addressing that with the ranch?
I was really made aware of it through last company I was with because they had Suicide Awareness Week, and of course I'm trying to go, well, why are we having Suicide Awareness Week, right? We're not in the military, and and then the statistics come out, and they said that the most suicide victims come from construction. And we do take a lot of stress, right? In any given day you have to solve 1,000 problems, right? You got to convince everybody, you got to convince the design team, the owner, the architecture people. I mean, it's a constant battle, and I feel like God blessed me to be able to handle all the stress in the world. So I didn't see that. But somebody that's not like me, that's giving and caring and loving and nurturing, that stress just pounds on you. And if there's no way out, if there's no way anybody to talk to, it kind of comes. So then you meet, with Gordon, and then Gordon tells you about his 20-year mission for PTSD and the veterans. And all of a sudden you start connecting the dots and going, this is not just about a specific set of circumstances. This is about men in general. This is about men's health. So it really made me aware between the two of I've got a bigger mission in life.
Men's health is very up and coming as far as people waking up to problems that need to be addressed. And one of the big ones is men's health. And it's partially because they're expected to go to these stressful jobs in construction and elsewhere, and then go home and not really get the concern and caring at home that they might need to rehabilitate from their job. And so they're going to two things that are stressful and difficult, and hard to keep afloat. And I can see how that can be overwhelming. I think many men are getting overwhelmed in this combination.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and if you look around and especially, and I've got a mixed bag about this, right? Because I still believe that, a man still is supposed to, be there and be the breadwinner and take care of your
Right.
family and protect them. I still believe that. But on the
Mhm.
other side of it, that doesn't mean you still can't be loving and caring. And my wife has transformed me. I'll just be about as honest as I can, because I was about hard as a rock. And the book kind of goes through that. But when you're the dad at 14 years old, and you watch your mom that's taking on all this, and you don't show it. So that's who I was. And I didn't realize you could be both until I met my wife. And she's the one that showed me you still can care, you can be nurturing. Here's the thing. My kids, I don't know, a while back said, "Dad, can you say that again?" I said, "What are you talking about?" You said, "Dad, you said I feel. You didn't say I think. I always thought. I never felt." So this transformation of men knowing it is okay. I never used to cry. You could cut my neck off. Wasn't going to happen. God, I see a good movie now. I just want to bawl like a little baby. you
Mhm.
know so it's okay, and men need to understand that it is okay to feel. It is okay to be apart. It is okay to love your wife and your children. You just don't have to take care of them and protect them.
Yeah, and I think men should get to the point where if they feel crying, even if they need to do it by themselves, even if not
Mhm.
comfortable in front of other people, do it. It's a cathartic activity. Let it out.
Yes, sir.
I have felt so much sadness in life looking at what I felt the world could be through the arts and culture and through music and through all of these great things that our society, our species has achieved, that maybe the whole world could be that way, and felt so much sadness. And I realized if I don't just cry all by myself once in a while, let it out, it's gonna affect me in a negative way, and that's going to make me have a less positive effect on others. So I think we really have to protect our men. I mean, we need them, and we need to support them at the workplace and at home. And having a great wife like you've been blessed with, and a mother who gave you survival techniques, when you have that, I think it's important to stand for that and say, hey, we want the rest of our men to have this kind of support at home as well as at work.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the endeavors and what you do, because at the end of the day, there's a whole lot bigger causes out there that we can help and be a part of. So I really appreciate all the missions you've had and what you've done in your life.
Well, like I said in the beginning, one thing we're kind of excited about right now is the opportunity for our species of human beings, because I've traveled all around the world, as have you, and I found that there are wonderful people everywhere, and there are some pretty bad people everywhere. It's not just, the Germans in World War II were the bad guys, or this guy was bad. There are wonderful people everywhere you go, and people that want to participate and make our world better. And we just want to give them a chance to participate. And like I was saying, we have this thing called an easy way to get from 0% funding of world peace, where we are now, to 1%, which is at least somewhere by the end of this 25th year anniversary celebration, which we are now celebrating. 9/11 is the 25th year of 9/11 is coming up, and that was the day I wrote
Yeah,
that poem.
yeah.
So basically, we have 6 ways that people can participate. One of the ways is, as you have done, coming on our podcast, telling your amazing story that's going to influence people in a positive way year after year through this podcast, and bypassing the wait list as we ask people to do so we can get them on the show. And one of the 6 ways, we also have a way of helping outstanding causes. And one thing I'll tell you right now is you are most welcome to give our Pay It Forward link to any of the causes that show up at your ranch, especially veterans, etc. All it is a conversation that I had with the Red Cross here in New York, who called me up on the phone and said, hey, we want to talk to you. We hear you're playing all these concerts to help all these outstanding causes. We want to find out about. I said, I'd love to. Just let me know when you're meeting. Well, we got a meeting on such and such a day. So I went there and I said, I'm here. Let's talk. And they said, well, we want to start out with an opening statement of what we think. We've looked at your program. And I think they said something like, Jazz for Peace is a wonderful way to bring world-class music while raising much-needed funds to communities all around the world. Something like that. It was just a wonderful statement. And I was like, wow, well, how would you like to take that statement and turn it into much-needed funds for the Red Cross? They said, well, honestly, Rick, we've been looking at your program and we know that you have a program that has there are 3 steps that create already a successful event. And then from that successful event, you then make it more successful. And that's why you're overachieving on all of your activities, because you're starting out at a rate of success and you're just making it more successful as you go along. And so the second thing was to share your amazing work with our other members, our board members, our volunteers, our supporters, our family members even. And so we've shared it, and we've collected all these board members that are here right now, and they're here. I said, wow, you're right. It's an ABC step. That's letter A. A is to, learn about us. B is to share that information with your board members, etc. And I said, well, wow, would you like to show me letter C? And they said, well, we've looked at your program and we've seen that we can confirm an event at no cost to us just by all of us getting a VIP list of the VIPs who are literally going to get paid to come to this event, because they're going to be the ones getting all the goodies from all the sponsors at the VIP ceremony. And so all of our board members, this is their VIP list. He's bringing, his wife and his mother and his blah, 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 and this guy's bringing his friends from bowling, and this guy's bringing his friends down on Wall Street. They're all coming. So everyone's got a VIP list. And I'm like, yeah, we can confirm this event with those lists. We can confirm the event at no cost to you and with funds already raised in your account, and begin the fundraising process. And that's exactly what we were able to do. And so people look at what we do and they say, well, it's too good to be true. It's not too good to be true when you already start out at a successful, at a successful event, and you're just building it from there. And that's what we would do. We would just build up that empowerment tree. And so that's why, people like me are so inspired when they see people like you that are giving back and that are meeting people that also have incredible missions to help veterans and to help children and men's help groups. So Jazz for Peace wants to be a part of your ranch. How's that?
Well, that is a compliment, and I really appreciate it, because, like you said, I have a deep respect for what you're going to do, because your journey's been long, and you haven't wavered. You've kept on the path, and I admire that.
Well, it's the fulfillment that I got kind of by accident doing it, because I was like, man, they would write me letters and say I really helped them. And that makes me kind of fulfilled in my heart. And now, like I said, people like you have the same bug. And I want to tell people, you don't have to be retired to get this bug. As soon as you start helping somebody and they tell you that you really made a difference, you're going to feel a little something in your heart. It's like a wealth. It's almost like a deposit into your heart bank account. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And you're getting rich in another way, probably in an even better way.
I was fixing to say it's better. Yes, sir. It's better.
It's better. So, folks, take it from a guy right here on our show who knows what it feels like to give back, to make a difference. And now he's really becoming more and more dedicated. I mean, it looks to me like a big part of your life is dedicated to giving back and helping others. So I just really want to thank you for being a part of the Jazz for Peace Legacy series.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure, and we will both continue on our path for success.
Now, just in finality, just tell us a little bit about the book, where they can get it, and maybe how they can get a hold of you if they want to or need to, and how they can get through to the ranch, and also anything in the future that you want to tell us about the ranch as well. I know you have 2 ranches, which is pretty extraordinary. Even that second ranch is recent, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. And thank you for the opportunity. So the book's on Amazon. You can reach out to Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, any of the bookstores, basically, will have it. The website for the ranch is breadingtexanranch.com. If you go there, it talks about the book as well. It talks about our mission. It talks about everything we kind of do. And the other up and coming, I think, is kind of special is we've been on, we've had like 9 episodes on the Sportsman channel and on the Pursuit channel. We are fixing to turn 5 of the episodes into a true series that's going to be called The Manage Wild Texas, and it's going to be on My Outdoor TV on a streaming channel. So I would encourage everybody to come stream it a little bit, because if we're successful there, then maybe the Sportsman Channel will pick it up and will actually become a series on the Sportsman Channel. So again, if you'd pick up the book, The Man That I Would Become, I would greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for letting me do that.
Great. Now, just again, to get to this new thing you're doing, you're going to stream some shows?
Yeah, so the Sportsman Channel is not a streaming service, right? But the
Okay.
Sportsman Channel owns My Outdoor TV, which is their streaming channel. So what happens is, after you record things on the Sportsman Channel, it becomes live for a period of time. They drop it into their streaming platform, which is My Outdoor TV. So the network just hit Trekking Outdoors. I'll give them a plug too, because they're actually the show that I was on. So Trekking Outdoors and B-Tex Ranch got together, and the network said, "Hey, do y'all want to put this into a series?" So we put our heads together and said, "Yep." So hopefully in about 2 weeks, the Managed Wild Texas will be a streaming series with Trekking Outdoors on My Outdoor TV.
Well, there you have it, folks. A whole bunch of stuff to participate in with Victor and this extraordinary ranch that he has now, 2 ranches, an amazing amount of land for these activities, and a bunch of outstanding causes that are really important that he is helping and that he's involved in. Victor, we really want to thank you for being on the series today. And folks, we want to thank all of you for sticking with the Jazz for Peace podcast so that we can bring outstanding people like Victor and feature them. And always remember, the final solution is love.